And for years, people would have agreements with their divorced wives, men would have agreements with their divorced wife, that for years and years after they were divorced, the woman would show up at every company meeting and every every business event, etc., to keep up the facade of the guy being a married guy. That's how important that it was. Also by us, by Jewish people, sometimes people don't want to. People are embarrassed to be divorced. They're embarrassed to be, or in a certain area, they're afraid people to criticize them. So we have a series of rules today. One, we have to discuss how stringent a person is about the way that he gets divorced. And we see that some of the person is very stringent. He wants only these people to know, not those people to know. That's number one. Number two, we have a series of law. We have some assumptions about when a person makes a command. So for example, you have to write a get, and he has to write it for the sake of his wife, and he has to give it to her one way or another. We know for sure if a person says, give a get to my wife, he certainly means you have to write it. You can't give a get without writing it. The question is, when a person says write a get, whether he just wants you to write it and hold it for him, or he really wants you to write it and give it. And the third thing is we have a bunch of rules that determine what a person's intentions are when a person is under pressure. A person is about to get killed. He wants whatever he says to take place because he has no chance to fix it. He's about to die. Or a person is very ill. A person is on a deathbed. He says things. He wants it to happen. So first of all, there are things that the rabbis enacted on behalf of people who are in danger of dying, or people, or number one, or on behalf of people who, also, and the second point is that certain assumptions we see when a person is in danger of dying, or a person is under pressure to leave. A person is about to get on a ship or to leave with the caravan. The caravan, those days, remember when they went for business, they traveled. It was dangerous to travel out of the city. So 10 businessmen would get together. That's what a caravan was. We think of a caravan always as camels and robes. A caravan for them, sometimes they did have camels. That's not the point. But the caravan, a shayara, in the Gemara is not the point of caravan. We think of caravan like Lawrence of Arabia. The point of a caravan in the Gemara was that business people banded together. They had to do business. It was dangerous. So one guy didn't go travel to do business by himself. You get a bunch of feds. They all might be in different businesses, but they would all travel together for the sake of for the sake of safety. So also, but that's also, and it's a lot of pressure. You can't miss it. If you miss not only today, you miss a flight, you get another one. You miss the caravan, you maybe miss that season's trip. You're not gonna go buy any merchandise. America used to have a lot of those kinds of entrepreneurs. When I was most of my formative years in Eretz Israel, Israelis were doing it all the time. I had to travel always for the yeshiva, so you'd meet Israelis getting on the plane. The guy's going to the Far East. So I said, "What are you doing there?" He says, "I'm going to buy something." I said, "What are you going to buy?" He says, "I don't know." No, he's a businessman. He'll go. He'll find something that's worth bringing back, and I'll make a profit. Those are business people. So they used to, but there were seasons for traveling. You miss the season. Also, I forgot what you mix with to make brass, to make bronze. Said all these things. So from the Middle East, especially from Eretz Israel, you would travel just to get chemicals, chemicals or natural ores, because they were far away. Even the stuff we made ink with in Eretz Israel you needed to bring back Confenton, other places like that, Kankantum, and other things. You needed to travel. So that was the story. So anyway, so the rabbis have lots of enactments to benefit people who are under pressure. We assume that they mean certain things, or one, we have assumptions, and secondly, we even enact enactments to help them. Okay, let's take a look. So the Gemara says, in the early, first they used to say, for a person, when they used to kill people, they put a metal collar around their neck and take them out to kill them. They're locked up to be killed. Guys going out to be killed. And he said to a bunch of Jewish people, he said, "Listen," he said, "write a get for my wife." Now you notice that he only said what? He only said write it. Maybe he just wants to write it. He said, write it and have it ready for when I come back. Nah, he's not coming back. They write it and they give it. He only said what? He said write it, but they write it and they give it because this guy knows he's finished. He's under such pressure. He can't remember every detail. Later they said also we even extend this. Right, we even extend this halacha if a person is about to get on a ship a person is about to go out on a caravan, like I told you. So those things, okay, those things has to go out into the desolate area. Those things are also, if he says write it, we write it and we give it. He says even a person is sick, okay, you don't have to, they don't have to be under such pressure. As long as the person is seriously ill, we give him this credit. Geneva Yotze B'Kol Hava. Geneva was a certain person. He was taking out. He was on the verge. He was locked up and being taken out to be killed by the Goyim. Kevanofik, when he's going out to be killed, and he doesn't figure he's coming back. Amrei said, "Habu Arba Be'azuzi LeRabbi Avina, give 400 zuz to Rabbi Avina Michamra de Harpanya from the wine that I have in the Harpanya." Now you notice that he said a very strange formula. He could have said, "Give 400 zuz worth of wine." You see what I'm saying?
Or sell
or he could have said right. Or he could have said give the. Or he could have said right. Give the proceeds from the wine. But what he said was, give him 400 zuz from the wine. So we don't, it's going to be a problem. Amar Abiziris or Abizera said, but the main point is he said give it to him. And what the main point is what he didn't make any legal transaction. Remember, in the, according to the laws of the Torah, if I want to transfer ownership to somebody, I have to make a kinyan. I have to have some kind of, have to lift something up, pull it, drag it, shake hands, something. Okay. So what happened? So Amar Abizera said about this halacha that Ravina, he says, Dor Ravina take his bag and put it on his bag of food and put it on his back. Okay, okay, and what? The Gabi the Rav Huna Rabbi. He should go to Rav Huna, his Rebbe, who will paskin for him that he has a right to that wine if he's challenged. Why? Is the Amar Rav Huna, because Rav Huna said, he said, Gito kematanaso. A get has the same rule as a gift. And what's the rule of a gift? Ma'anataso im amad. Okay, just like a gift. When a guy's dying, a guy's very sick, and he gives a gift, and then he gets better. He reneges on the gift. Why? Because it's clear that he always giving the gift. He was giving his stuff away because he was dying. So if he gave everything away, and he got better. So what? So it's okay. Yes, right. Av Gito, same thing with the get. Even the guy said, "What give a get to life, etc." We see he was dying. If he got better, so the get really is not a get. It's rescinded, okay? Because he only gave it because he was dying. Gito, and furthermore, also in the reverse, the same thing is true. Also, we can learn from get to money. Gito says same thing with a get. Afal P the low parish. A get, even though what he didn't say explicitly to give it. Since he said write it, even though it didn't say give it, we give it. Also, the same thing with a gift of money or property or chattel came when he said give it to a certain person when he's dying. Even though he didn't make any official transaction, the rabbis already consider it to be transferred, to be obligatory, and it goes over to the other person. Yeah, she's dying. You see, we have to actually have to. It's a good point. I have to double check exactly when those. Let's say we had a legal debate. No debate about the timing. I'm not sure. We got to check. It's a good point. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I said that's what I double check. Masking law Rabbi Abba. Okay, Rabbi Abba asked a kasha to him. He said, 1 second. Is it really true that the laws of a dying person and the laws of a get are the same? Mama Tari Yishlach Amisa, he says, Afget Yishlach Amisa. What are you talking about? He says, then you're going to say, just like the gift can be given after he dies, you see what it can happen. It can be chal after he dies. But even though after he dies, it really goes to the person. Even though the guy died, then the transfer takes place. So you might think the same thing by a get. You see, I'm saying your problem. So you can see the same thing, maybe just like a gift can go. According to that, you see the gift can go afterwards, after he dies. So it says, just like a gift can go after he dies, so also what? Also the get can go after he dies, but we know it's not true. So everybody knows in the world you can't divorce one after you're dead. When the guy dies, it's too late. The divorce can't go through. So the Gemara says, how can you say there's a comparison when we know there's clearly no comparison? You're right. So the Gemara says, stop making comparisons like that. He says by definition, he says gifts work after death and gets don't work after death. Now this is a big problem because it sounds like he just repeated the question, the same question. So the answer is like this: he's saying to him, the fact that a get can't be given after death is incidental. Here's the point: it's incidental. What? Sometimes the point is incidental. It's not relevant to the principle. It just so happens that a get can't be given after death. So it's not because a get and a gift are not comparable. They're completely comparable. But there's something that's in the nature of a get that by definition get after a guy died. But really, if it could happen, it would happen. You know, he says you're making a mistake. You're taking a unique, peculiar law of get and saying that disqualifies the comparison of get and a gift. He says it's not true. That is only incidental, okay, incidental, it's not salient to the principle. So therefore, what? So if that's the point, so then what was Rabbi Abba really saying? What bothered him about the comparison? He says, here's what bothered him. He says, listen, the rule of matna shchimera, okay, what happened is when a person gives part of what he gave, okay, if a person gave part of his possessions when he's dying, and he kept part from himself, okay, that's not the rule of a shimera. The whole point of a shimera is what the guy's dying. It's quickly he's distributing all of his possessions, and it's over. But if he only distributes part and keeps part, then the rule, right? The rule of shimera doesn't apply. He's not really dying. It's not really that. But a shimera makes his buyer. Kenyan, if he's only giving part, then the rule that you don't need, if he's only giving part of his possessions away and not distributing everything, then the rule that you don't need a Kenyan, an enactment of the transaction is not true. You do need an enact. You need a Kenyan. You need to enact the transaction. Else, okay, so I have a problem. Gemara says, "Get out of here." He says, according to what you're saying, then according to that, Rav Huna, who said it works, says you don't need a Kenyan. Everybody knows that only a partial gift needs a Kenyan. Gemara says no. The mitzvah machmas misa. He says it's different over here because here, where the person is making Geneva knew that he's dying. He knew he's for sure going to die. Okay, and therefore he knew. Therefore, what? There was no chance. There was no chance he was going to come back. When do we say what? That when do we say that when you give part, you're saying, but maybe I'm going to live when you might live. But nobody's taking out by the Goyish government. When they put the collar on the guy and take him out, he's dying. Nobody's coming back from that. And therefore, even though normally the rule is that if he gives some of his possessions away, he doesn't think he's going to die. Okay, here, even though it's only some, here we say it's the same thing. He knows he's going to die. Okay, so the way according to Rav Abba holds that even when he knows he's going to die, you still need a kinyan when it's only part. Well, Kamel and the boy kinyan, we said you don't need it. Ella says we still don't understand the question. Ella, you have to say this is the point. He says, this was the kasha of Rabbi Abba. Here, what I mentioned to you before, the language of the dying of Geneva was strange. Chamar lo kamar. He didn't say. He didn't say give him 400 zuz of wine. Okay. The mei chamar lo kamar. Nor did he say what? Did he say give him the money that comes from the sale of the wine? Okay. But rather what? Mei chamar kamar. He says 400 zuz of the wine, from the wine. What does that mean? 400 zuz from the wine. So what it's talking about? So he says, therefore, what's he saying? So he says, you can't make those. It sounds like he's saying, turn the wine into money. Make the wine money. Take wine and turn it into money and give it to him. Okay, what does that mean? Okay, it's impossible. It's a metaphor. Maybe the whole thing was meaningless. It was just like a joke. It has no meaning. So that's what he says. So Rav Zera holds that what? That it's a fine gift. Okay, what does he hold? He says Michama, when he said 400 zuz from the wine, he didn't mean turn the wine into 400 zuz, but rather just a way of saying, I really want to give him the 400 zuz no matter what. I'll give you an example.
Why can't it mean sell the wine and give him 400 zuz?
Right. So that would usually mean that's called demei chamer, the money from the wine. In Hebrew, you would say demei chamer, the money from the wine. When you say here 400 zuz from the wine, it sounds like you're trying to turn like Rumpelstiltskin, trying to turn the wine into money. It's just strange to us that it's not our language. That's all. You know, saying it's only strange because that's not the way we speak. But the way they spoke, you have to know it's a lot like that. And also, you have to be careful. But watch out. Modern Hebrew is in many places is absolutely incorrect. Yeah, in many places. You have to don't learn the Hebrew from that. You can learn to talk to people in Israel if you want, but don't learn it for Torah. In many places where it's correct, there's a Mishnah we'll come to in Mitzvah Hashem down the road in Baba Basra. So the Gemara is absolutely upset. The language of the Mishnah is absolutely upsetting. When you look at the Mishnah is fine because we're so ignorant of Hebrew. You understand? The Mishnah looks fine to us. So until you learn the Rashbam and learn how Hebrew really works, and then you understand that it's no good. You have to become educated to find out what the problem is. We're not aware what the issue is. So be careful. So over here, so I'm just saying, it's just that for them, that was the normal. If you would say 400 zuz from the wine means turn the wine into 400 zuz. If you want to say the money from the sale, that's called the may, the cash from. Okay.
Also, the person in that situation, you can expect them to be that exact.
That's what the Gemara is going to answer.
Exactly, and that's 100%. That's 100%. Yeah. So let's take a look. Of course, you're correct. Okay. So therefore, what? So therefore, what? So therefore, he was strange. Okay. So, but no. So he said the other way. He said this. No, he said this language was really a legal language. You think that it's nonsense. It's really a very strong language. Okay. Why is that? I'll give you an example. Let's say he said, give him wine. And let's say the wine went sour. So then the recipient of the gift would lose it, but he doesn't want him to lose it. He said, look, give him wine. Let's say the wine went bad. So the kids are not going to give it to the recipient. So he wants to make sure that the kids are not going to foil the recipient. Okay, that's number one. And if you would, the kids don't want the kids want it. They want to keep the money. They want to keep the money. So the father said, give him if he would say to give him the wine, if the wine goes sour, the kid say, sorry, your wine, here's your wine. It's sour. Yeah, it's tough luck. Or if he said the other, let's say he said the money from the wine, sell the wine and give the money. Okay, so then what happened was if they sold the wine and the money was lost, they'll say, tough luck, you lost your money. So so therefore what he was saying, give 100 Jews from the wine, no matter what happens, use this wine to guarantee that he gets money. If part of the wine goes bad, give him other wine, give him this, give the money gets lost, no matter what. Yeah, right. No, right. No matter what, give this guy the money. Okay, Shalchumi Tam, they sent from Eretz Yisrael, Mechamra, it said like exactly we said, they indeed learned the way we learned. Mechamra, from the wine, okay, so now we have to answer like this. My tzaddik, what you asked over here, why didn't you answer the same answer as before? He's under pressure, and that's what he must have meant. The answer is that there's certain omissions. We can say a person's under pressure, but when a person says something that appears to be nonsense, in monetary terms, we're always worried about it because a lot of people use nonsense terms because they don't want the deal to go through. We do it all the time in business. You understand? Sometimes we just say stupid things because we want to look good, but we don't want it to happen. You know, so we do lots. And if you, I don't know if you do business, the business has a lot of tricks. You understand? We do a lot of things for business. You understand? Without stealing, without stealing, we do a lot of things. You understand that protect our position in business. We say thing here. You have all times the Gemara. A guy say he got here. A guy doesn't want to look rich. Here, as a certain guy I know, he's not in this world anymore. For all the years I knew the guy, every time I spoke to him for years, 25 years, 30 years, business is terrible. Did I lose? I never met him once that business wasn't terrible. The guy seemed to be okay. He seemed to have money. Business is terrible. Did I lose money? There's a rule, so we know that a guy doesn't want to look wealthy. A guy doesn't want everybody to think he's wealthy. You don't want to horror to look at. I'm saying 25 years. I'm telling you, I until I finally figured, because I used to feel terrible. Every time I meet the guy, I say, the poor guy. And then when like 30 years later, the guy's got a lot of money. So it's terrible. He's talking through his hat. Okay, anyway. And so the answer is, so what I'm trying to answer you is that when a term degenerates into nonsense, then we think it has no meaning. We can't, even this under pressure is what I'm trying to say. At a certain point, it's nonsense. We have to say maybe it's just nonsense.
We have to either interpret it or
you have to let it go. Yeah, you have to let it go. On the other hand, you have to know that you have an obligation, and we're going to see it coming up in a lot of places in the Gemara. You're not allowed to be stupid. And we penalize people for being stupid.
Too late for that.
Yeah, we penalize them. Even in business, in the halacha, we penalize people. If people are stupid, they're going to have to take responsibility for acting foolishly. You probably know, if you learn the book of Yoshua, so you remember there was a famous deal that was struck between the spies who were saved by Rachav and in Yericho and Rachav. So if you look, it's a very strange thing because they've jumped out the window and they're hanging there on the ropes. I don't know if you know the story? Yeah. And they go through, it's like lawyer 101. They go, now, if you put the red string and your family goes into et cetera, okay, there you go. But if you don't put the red string, or if you do put the red string, you tell, or if you put the red string and people and the family doesn't come, they're going through 20 different scenarios, whether they're responsible for a family or not. So it's shocking. So you look at the Ralbag. By the way, one day maybe we'll learn the Ralbag together. I believe had they read the Ralbag, they would have banned him. But the Ralbag was an incredible commentary on the Tanakh. So Ralbag, what he does, if you read the Ralbag, after he goes through various stories in the Tanakh, he then gleans all the lessons. He'll say, oh, there are 10 lessons you can learn from this story. Lesson 1, lesson 2. It's fantastic. It's unbelievable. In this story, one of the things he teaches is the following. He says, even when you're under pressure, you have to make a good deal.
You have to what?
You have to make a good deal.
You have to speak loud.
Even when you're under pressure, make a good deal. These are guys hanging by ropes on the wall, and they're gonna do it. In Eretz Yisrael, when I was much younger, so I had to make a deal with Eitz Chaim. The original yeshiva in Eretz Yisrael was Eitz Chaim. They were the only yeshiva in Eretz Yisrael. By the time I came, they were very well established, etc. They had a property that I was going to occupy, and so I came. I'm a young guy, and I was starting a yeshiva. So I come to make a deal with them. In those days, they wrote a thing called Zichron Duraim. They don't write contracts. It's called memorandum. Zichron Duraim is called it in Hebrew. You write a memorandum. It's a kind of an agreement, a gentleman's agreement. So we sit down. So he says to me, he says, okay. He says, you'll take it for a year. I said, no, I can't take it for a year. He said, what are you talking about? I said, listen, I'm just opening a place. He said, I said, you have to raise money. It's hard. I don't know. If in 3 months I'll have money. So I'll take it for 3 months. If I have money after 3 months, I'll renew. Otherwise, I can't take it. He said, no, just forget about it. Everybody writes a year. Just write a year. Don't worry about it. It'll be fine. I said, no, I can't write it for a year. I don't know if I'm gonna have money. I have to write for 3 months. No, they're all laughing at me. I'm like I'm the baby. You're a naive kid. So shut up and sign it. I say, everybody writes a year. I said, listen, the Ralbag says I can't do it. I can't take the pressure. I said, from you, even though you're putting me under pressure, I have to write for 3 months. For years and years, decades, I was in the same place on that paper and a handshake. That was all it was. And I 3 months, by the way. Okay. A guy was in a hole in the ground. Usually people die. Guys like in a dungeon. They find a guy in a hole in the ground, in a pit. And they can't really see him. But he says, he says, anybody hears my voice, write a gift for my wife. He tells us his name and the name of the city he's in. Anybody who can hear me, this is Chaim Yankel from Lodge, write a gift to my wife. It says, Hari Elu, they should write it and they should give it. The Gemara said, what do you mean? Maybe how do I know the voice they heard is a human being? Maybe something supernatural. Maybe it's a demon. Amar Abuda, he says, no, they could see. They didn't see the face. They couldn't identify, but they saw a human form. It's not a demon. He says, get out of here. He says, demons also take human form. That doesn't prove anything. No, they saw shadows. Demons don't have shadows. He says, he said, well, no, demons also have shadows. No, no, he saw the shadow of the shadow. You have at certain times of the day, a person's shadow will be double. There'll be a darker one closer, and then a further away one that's lighter. I never tried to see it, but it's at certain times, and there are big rabbis who speak about it. But anyway, the deal he says, who said maybe demons also have shadow of a shadow? Yonas, my son, taught me the following point. He says, no, a demon will have a shadow, but the shadow they don't have. I have a deal with sorry. Okay, so no, it's not a demon. Maybe the voice you're hearing is an enemy of one of his wife. Remember, a guy, the two wives of a man are called tsaras. They're rivals. They're at odds with each other. So maybe the voice you're hearing is not the guy. It's one of his two wives imitating his voice. So in order to mess up her neighbor, to say what, send a get. And then her girlfriend, her rival is going to get a get, and then be forbidden to her husband. She's going to mess her up. Says Tana de Rabbi Yishmael, no. In times of danger, when a guy's in a hole, he's going to die. We write it even though we don't recognize him truly, even though we can't prove it. Why? Even though we don't recognize the guy, we do it anyway. Says the Mishnah, a guy who's healthy, okay, he's not dying. He said, write a get to my wife, okay. Okay, he only said write it, and he didn't say what. They give it. So since when we was under pressure, what did we say? Writing meant write it and give it. But over here we said, what's the sachik? Well, it's nothing. We don't make that assumption. He just teasing. It's nothing. One time a guy was completely healthy. He said, write a get for my wife. And then he went up to the roof and fell off. So now Amram Gamliel, he said, Gamliel said the following: if he killed himself, he fell by his own volition. He was killing himself hard as he gets. So it's a good get because it's clear when he said write the get for my wife, he really meant write and give because he was like a guy under pressure dying. Why? Because he was about to kill himself. Okay, but he says, okay, ours again. Okay, but if we see that he was just blown off by the wind, then again, it's not a get because he was just a regular guy. That's the no. The answer is that there's a point where even where a healthy guy might be like a guy who was about to die. And we can see by dint of what happened afterwards that he was really on the verge of dying. Listen, the story you told contradicts the principle. You just told me what, that it's a joke. A guy said, give a get to my wife, it's nothing. Then you told me what, that sometimes the get's a good get. So the Gemara says, my solicitor, how do you tell a story that contradicts the principle? The Gemara says, no. The Mishnah is missing. This is how you have to learn. It's like this. So if we see that the end reflects back on the beginning, it proves the point. How is a get? That's a get. If the end proves that he really knows, we say it's not serious, but if the end proves it's serious, then it is a good get. What is that? And then once there's a story, I'll show you how the end proves the beginning that it really was a get. But Bar Shamakis would get usually the once was a story of a guy who was healthy and he said, write a get for my wife. We all were Shagagwan up the mace. Then the roof and fell off. Ram Shem Gamliel said, that's enough. How is a get? We see if he threw himself off, it's a good get. That's a case of what? That if the end proves the beginning that he was really a guy about to die, that's a good get. But if the wind blew him off, then it's not a get. Okay, now. Who governed the all the bacon? A certain guy went into the shul. Okay, he saw a children's teacher and his son sitting there. And there was a third guy. So there's a guy, the teacher, his son, and a third party were there. Amar Lucy said to these three guys, he says, here, two of you write a get for my wife. The sof So then what happened? What happened? The guy who was the teacher, he died. Now, so Gemara says, "Mi mashu inche brash licha b'makam abalo." Do we say that when the father was there, he only went two out of the three? So who would the cover normally is what? You're speaking to the father. So now the father died. Can I say that he also really, even though the father was there with the son, that he also was thinking of the son, or maybe only was exclusively the father and the third party, the son cannot take over now and do the job. He wasn't a messenger. Nachman says no, nobody does it. A guy when he's speaking to when the father and son are present, he's clearly speaking to the father to the exclusion of the son. Papa Yamai said no. He said nah, he's not speaking. He's speaking exclusively to the father. He's speaking to the father and to the son. It's not exclusive. Amar Rabba, and Rabba says Hilchasa. What is the actual halacha in practice? Certainly people do. People don't. We don't assume that the appointing was the third party and the father exclusively. He meant anybody, even among the father and the son, he meant any two out of the three.
So this is an exception to the general rule of Adam that they can't be relatives.
No, they're not going to do it together. That was never going to happen. The only question
No, but he is signing on his father's get.
No. Guy one is speaking to guys 2, 3, and 4. And 2 and 3 are father and son, and 4 is not. Yeah. So we're never getting 2 and 3 to do the job together, to be witnesses. We're never getting 2 or 3. It's either 2 and 4 or 3 and 4. It's either the father and the third party or the son and the third.
The father is Mistama on a boat now. He's no.
The father's not the commander. The father is one of the commandees. Somebody comes in and says to a father and son, to a third party, 2 of you write a get for me. The father and the son are two potential messengers. Yeah. Says. Yeah.
I learned that the father says is on a trip or whatever. So he says, prepare a get.
No. Look at the language. It's a certain guy came into shul and he finds a teacher, his son, and a third party.
So the father is the guy who walks in.
No. The father is one of the guys who was walked in on. That's what
he's already there.
Yeah, he's one of the guys. He's one of the guys. That's what it is. It's okay. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to get lishti. Now, a guy says to 2 guys, give a get to wife. Remember, I told you. Now, when you say give, that's pashut. There's no argument. It's clear he's saying write it and give it. You can't give a get without writing one. A get, you get to written to a woman. So if a guy says to 2 guys, give a get to wife, for sure he's saying what? He's saying write it and give it. They're not talking about. Okay, or he says l'shloshi. So told 3 guys, kissu get it to nushi, write a get and give it to my wife. So in either of those cases, both of those cases, you write the get and you give it. There's no question. Now, what we are going to debate, as we'll see later, we're going to debate whether writing means essentially signing and giving, or does it really mean actually writing the actual text of the get? Okay, but for right now, they sign it and give it. He said, but here's a different case. If he said to 3 people to get lishti, give a get to my wife, okay, he just said give it. They can tell other people
to write the get, and then they'll sign it and give it. Why? Because he made them a basin. No, in the first case, they didn't have a right to give it to other people to write it. But in this case, we give it when he told 3 people, he made them a basin. They have a right to assign the writing that gets to somebody. That's very mayor. Okay, Bazu halacha hello Rabbi Chanina Ishono. And this halacha is one of the halachas that Rabbi Chanina Ishono helmi beis asurim. He brought back from prison when Rabbi Kiva was in jail for teaching Torah. So they used to go to Rabbi Kiva to ask him shilas. So he came back and brought this halacha from Rabbi Kiva. What? I have a tradition. If you tell 3 people, give a get to my wife, they can tell other people to write the get. Based in why? Because they can have other people do the job. They're based. Now, Rabbi Yossi says what? Rabbi Yossi says no, that's not true. We never accepted that message from Rabbi Akiva. That's not what really happened. Was like this. When that messenger came from Rabbi Akiva, in other words, when Rabbi Chanina Ishona came back with the message of Rabbi Akiva saying what? That we tell 3 people they can appoint somebody else to do the job, to write it, sign it, to give it, etc. He says we challenged that message and we said he says what we have our own tradition. He said if you told the great basin in Jerusalem, okay, that what to give a get to my wife, they have to sit down and learn themselves how to write it and give it. They're not allowed to pass it on to anybody else. Nobody has a right. We're going to see in a minute because you can't. We're going to see because who said even though sometimes a messenger can a proxy can make a new proxy, but there's sometimes when a proxy can't make another proxy, and nobody told him to do it. Amar la Sarah kisu get now. Okay, and furthermore, maybe we'll see in a minute. Amar, further we say, if a guy said to 10 people, kisu tnu get lishti, write and give a get to my wife. So one guy writes and 2 people sign. Okay, that's clear. But if he said kulu ksuva, he said all of you. Then the one he says so amongst you do the job. So one guy writes it, 2 guys signed it. But if he said all of you write it, then he means echad kosuv kulu chosman. Then one guy writes and all 10 people have to sign. And therefore, one of them died before he gets to sign, the get is nullified. So they sent this message from the Yeshiva Yishmael. They said, Rabbeinu, teach us.
From Rab's
one second. From the Bey Rab from Rabbi Yeshiva to Shmuel. Yamdeinu Rabbeinu. He said, teach us. He said, if he tells 2 people, Kisu to get lishti, if he says that write and give a get to my wife, okay. Then they told, but they did instead of writing it themselves, they told the scribe because when he wrote it, the chosman, but they signed it. What's the halacha? Did they have a right to give over to make him write it? Shalachlu, so he said to him, Teitze says, if a woman married, she has to leave the husband. Maybe she's forbidden. And the truth is, though, but I don't know the truth. I'm just in doubt. Since I'm in doubt, we have to say she's not allowed to be married to the second guy. But the truth is, maybe she is, maybe she's not. But what does he mean? What is it that he doesn't know? Why is he in doubt about this case? What's his problem? He doesn't know if you can pass on one proxy can pass to another. In other words, and he's saying what? That the writing of the get is just words, and therefore what? And we could say when we know for sure that one proxy can appoint another proxy. There's no question about it. We learn from the psukim. So if you give me, let's say, an object to give to somebody, and then on the road I can appoint somebody else to give that object and give him the object and have him deliver it. But that's only true when it's a physical thing that I'm passing on to the other proxy. But if all I'm passing on to the other proxy are the instructions that the sender gave me, that's a machlokas. That's called mili be'alma, mere words. If I'm not just passing on from one proxy to another, just instructions, maybe you can't. When I have an object to deliver, I had a job to do, I can I can appoint somebody else to do the job because I give him the object that I had. So I empower him with the object that was given to me. I give this. But if I was only given instructions, that's a debate whether one proxy can pass on mere instructions that he was empowered to do to another person. So he says, if the problem is what they're writing, they get just words, go do it. Okay, he says, and what are you going to tell me what? And therefore what? And Shmuel's problem is what? He's not sure whether one proxy can pass on instructions or not. If he can't, it's not true. We know that Shmuel was not in doubt. We know that Shmuel's whole clearly, he wasn't in doubt about this point. All the halachas like Rabbi Yossi, the Amar, he holds what? And you can't pass on instructions. So he should have no doubt. He should know for sure the woman has to leave her husband and she's absolutely not divorced. You never could pass it on. Ella the Shmuel coming by. This was the doubt of Shmuel. Hi Kasovu, when he said write it, Ikasav Yadan, did he really mean what? Just sign it? Okay, Ikasav Getter, he meant write the get. That's the point. When he said write the get, does he really just mean sign the get? Of course, you can let somebody else write it. Or no, when he said write the write the get, he really meant literally write it. Write it. Okay, I have a t-shirt late. When I said 1 second, he says I can prove. If that's the doubt whether writing means signing or writing and signing, he says I can prove it from our Mishnah. Amar l'shnayim, we learned in our Mishnah, to get lishti o l'shlosha. If he told two people, give a get to my wife, which obviously means write it and give it. O l'shlosha, kiss would get to lishti. If he told 3 people, write a get and give it to my wife. Hari elu yichtabu b'yitnu. It says clearly they should write the get and give it. What do you want? That's explicit. That's not a proof. That was the question. You're trying to make me a proof about exactly the part that Shmuel's not sure about. I told you Shmuel isn't that about what? About whether when you say write, you mean writing or signing. You wrote me a mission that said they write it. That was his question. When it says they write it, well, that's the answer. He says, Ksav Yodanu, he says, does it mean Sober? When it says write it, Ksav Yodanu, does he mean what? Sign it, okay? Or Ksav Agedu, they mean write it. What do you mean mission? Those are the words he didn't understand. What do you want from me? Come on, huh? No, if you're no, but the question is maybe he means you have to do it. If you don't know how, go get lessons. But I want you to why? Because we're going to see. So, remember, I mentioned this. Sometimes people are embarrassed, and they only want certain people to know. They only want certain people to know that they're getting divorced. I don't want this guy to. Anybody else? You do it. I don't tell anybody. Just you guys do it, and that's all. You see what I'm saying? So either they have to be sober, and if they're not, they have to go to school till they learn how to do it. You're right.
For a long time.
There's a very famous story by Rabbi Feinstein Zitzal, and I'm sorry I don't remember where I read it, but I think I read it in a good source. It was early years here, and for whatever reason, he didn't have a sofer. And he spent. It took him hours and hours and hours. He wrote to get himself. Yeah. But again, here we'll learn. We'll say, one day if you want, we can have a practical, thing. We can also have not to get divorced. I mean,
I'm going to write again and use it. It's wasteful.
Practical. But my point is that so as great a Talmid Chacham as he was, a person who's not rugil is like people. There's so many tricks in writing. There's lots. I watch the guys. If you watch the guys writing, I love them. And I love them. You see, he's got there's trick. There's so many rules writing. Again, these guys they have a whole array of like insider tricks. How to gauge everything so it comes out in one shot. They don't get beginners. They're about to get 20 times. I'm telling you. Yeah, all kinds of problems. Right, but this See, if you have the art scroll, it helps you. I'm just
interrupts himself in a whole section.
But I'm just teasing. But also about the way the space is all kinds of. But my point is that even if you're a big Talmid Chacham, the difference between knowing those laws and actually being able to pull it off, you'd be shocked. Okay. Anyway, so he's talking how it took hours and hours and hours and hours till he produced the get. Not that he was obviously a giant of Torah, but he wasn't used to writing. He wasn't used to writing Gittin. Okay, so Pshita. So we answer what? So now Pshita. Okay, so now Gemara says, "Get out of here." Huh?
I'm a boy late, right next to us. Chasam in the Tosfos.
No.
That's where you're.
No. I'm up to Pshita. Yeah, Pshita. The Gemara wants to
skip. You need 2 more lines.
No, I read that part. I did read that. I read that. I read. So I'm not up to Pshita. It's obvious. Yeah. But I'm saying even having a sample, it's not gonna solve your problem. There's so many rules. I'm saying one of my favorite guys, who just passed away, who was famous for getting here in America.
What's
Rabbi Greenblatt from Memphis. Yes. So his kid, who's a fine, young Talmid Chacham, he's like a superstar. And his father used to talk about how great he's a super. I watched him. He's a super. What? But what is it? No, he's a Masada Git, but they do it together. They do everything. But the point is what? Because he's so used to. They've been through the problem so many times. You understand? You watch an expert in any field, anything, a carpenter, a welder, guys who've done it 20 times. They do stuff. Why? Oh, you know why? Because when I do it, that's not going to happen. When I was much younger, as soon as computers came out. I immediately started writing all my ksuvas on the computer. I always hated weddings being late and all kinds of problems with the ksuvas. So I started writing my own ksuvas on the computer, even before there was international Hebrew in the computers. Even before then. In fact, I lost all my old ksuvas don't exist anymore because they were all in word processors that don't function with international Hebrew anymore. International Hebrew. So anyway, I was pretty young, and I showed up at a wedding one day, and at that wedding, there was another Gadol Mo was there, Rav Gantz. Rav Gantz was a protege of, he should live me well, he's a protege when he was a kid, Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach. A really wonderful man, Auerbach, Rav Gantz, an angel, really a walking Torah and an angel, really an incredible human being. So anyway, I'm the new kid in town, So I'm there at the wedding, and I pull out my ksuba, that I printed up on the computer. So you always get these guys at weddings. So the guy looks over, he says, "Oh, what's special about that ksuba?" So Rav Gantz says, "What's special about this ksuba is that the wedding's going to happen on time." He said. He was very kind to me. Not only was he nice to me, because I was nobody. But he also after whatever reason he befriended me, and he sent me a book. His father-in-law was an expert architect, an engineer. So his father-in-law wrote a book on all the practical problems of designing a mikvah in modern mikvahs, and Rav Gantz wrote a halachic section to it, and he sent it to me. He sent it just made friends with me and sent it. Very sweet, huh? I don't have it anymore for a special reason. But anyway, but that's the point. So anyway, becoming an expert. So this kid, Rabbi Greenblatt's kid, Yankee, is incredible. I'm saying that there's tricks, is what I'm trying to tell you. When you learn the tricks, there's certain things you can do it one, two. Okay. So now, what? Like opening the cabinet.
Is he still in Memphis, the son?
Last I spoke to him, he was. I don't know.
But he doesn't really have a parnasa. He's
Who, the son?
He's struggling. They opened the yeshiva.
Him? I didn't know. It's the same. I don't know which kid. I'm sorry. Anyway, they're good guys. I have a lot of stories about the Greenblatts. I wish. I don't know why. I don't know why. I wasn't here most of my life in America, and I was in Israel most of my life, but certain things are unfathomable, and I don't know why Rabbi Feinstein's teachings and students weren't the ones who took over here. I don't know why.
The ones who did what?
I don't know why Rabbi Feinstein's students were not the ones who took over America. It's something mystifying to me.
Because Rav Aaron's students did.
Yeah, I'm saying from the Shamayim, I don't know. There's certain things that are mystifying. There's in Evan Ezer, there's a smach, one of the commentaries, and he calls it, there's an expression in the Gemara called kishkagash yotz menapalit. Certain things are unfathomable. It's not like an error that comes that we cannot fathom it. So he was speaking about the fact that the Rambam was written without sources. It's unfathomable. The Rambam is the most complete rendition of an integrated understanding of Torah in the history that we know. You understand that we can get our hands on. And it was unfathomably written without sources, which just threw a monkey wrench into everything we do with the Rambam for all the generations to this day. He writes it was mystifying. And Rav Feinstein Zitzal and his students were so incredibly wonderful, indescribably wonderful. It's unfathomable to me that they did not become the reigning influence in America. After 120 years, we'll ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Yeshiva was a high school, and it never really flourished.
I'm saying, but I'm speaking from spiritual point of view. After 120 years, we have to ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu what happened.
Rav Moshe was showed covered to Rav Aaron. I mean, Rav Aaron wasn't a posek like Rav Moshe, but he was.
I'm saying something mystical here. I said something mystical here. We have to see. Pshita, okay, so now we're going to say it. Here, remember, so what's the suffix? The suffix, we said, what is the suffix? We don't know. When a guy says to them, write it, if he really means literally write together, he means what? You be the signatories. So Pshita, okay, he says, it's obvious. He says, the Ksavageru, if it's clear that when a guy says write, he means write to get. The Tani Sefer, because we learned at the end of the Mishnah, how can he be in doubt about what the Mishnah means when it said,
yes,
write it? whether he means what, write the get or sign it. It's clear from the end of the Mishnah. Amar Rabbi Yossi said, he said, what, your tradition is not correct. He says, we challenged that tradition on the spot. When we heard that a communication from Rebbe Akiva, we challenged the message. We said, we have our own tradition. That what? That even if he told the great base of Yerushalayim to get lishti, that give a get to what she yilmadu, they have to go study the yichtavu law and learn how to write. If they don't know how to write, so no. What do you have to study? What do you have to study to sign your name? No, you must be studying what? To write the get. So obviously, what? It's clear from the Mishnah that writing means write the get. Today, he says, he says, listen, if you say writing means the get, chopper makes sense. If you say what? When originally it said writing, it just means signatures. Is there a base on done that assign? Base has to sign papers all day long. After that, assign the name. Gemara says, nah. He says, no, it's not true. You know what? A guy could be this tremendously learned person. But they're brand new based in, and they're not used to the practicalities of signing. It's a new based in, okay, where they haven't learned yet. What? That they haven't learned how to sign their names. The East Svirland, the Hike Sobek Sav Yadnu, says, come on. He says, if you tell me what, you want to tell me what, like you're saying, that there's still a possibility that writing really means what? Signatures? Okay, I'll get kosher. Then according to what you're saying, then according to that, since he only told them to sign, then there's no question if they tell the sofer to write it that it's a kosher get. Okay, Rabbi, how could Shmuel say such a thing? Didn't he say that Allah is like Rabbi Yossi? We said that instructions can never be passed on. So according to you, if it's obvious, then how could it be obvious? And it's going to come out that Shmuel saying what? Shmuel told me what that we're coming in impossibility because now when they give it to the sofer, that's okay. Shmuel himself said that you can't ever pass on instructions. Amri says no. Israel the sober they said like this, as if we believe that right really means the signatures. Okay, it really means the signatures, and he doesn't really care about the actual writing of the get. Okay, ksava get nasik omer imru. Then it's as if when it comes to writing the get, even though he didn't say the words literally, it's as if he said, tell somebody to write the get. Okay, umoder Yossi bomer imru, and even Rabbi Yossi, who Shmuel was quoting, holds that when a guy says say it, it's fine. Let me just explain. In other words, even the opinion that holds that instructions cannot be relayed from one proxy to another, if the sender said tell someone else, everyone agrees that the proxy can relay the instructions to someone else because the sender said relay it. So that's fine. So over here, if we say that when he said write it, he really meant sign it, then it's like as far as the writing that he meant to say, just tell somebody else to write it, and everybody agrees that it's fine. At this point, I think it's a good stopping point. We'll continue tomorrow. Everyone have a wonderful day.
I'll tell you a fabulous Rav Moshe story.
Yeah.
At one point, while he was still alive, there was a magazine article.
What
that
page was
said
that to
a
get on?
businessman offered him a ride, and the businessman shut the door on his finger, and he waited till he was in his apartment to cry out because he didn't want to upset the businessman. About 2 weeks after I read
Good Shabbos, Bob.
that,
You too.
Thank you.